Hello and welcome to the Roar-Makerz podcast.
A one-stop shop for courage, confidence, and mindset building.
Also bringing you all the aspects of mental health awareness, business and entrepreneurship. We are your hosts,
Adam Ellis
and Jason Vorman of the Roar-Makerz Coaching. So tonight, guys, we've got probably one of the greats, in the field of like NLP, in our opinion, and he's joined us tonight very graciously. I can't wait to get him on. He's a men's coach, a mentor, a trainer, and he mainly specializes in the field of NLP, so Neuro Linguistic Programming. And he's heavily linked with some of the biggest names in the coaching world. And yeah, can't wait to get him out. So without further ado, hello, Karl.
Hi guys, how you doing? Nice to be on with you. Thanks for the invite. Brilliant to be on. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Good.
And yeah, no problem. Like, we're jumping at the chance to get you on, mate. We're jumping at the chance.
I appreciate it. Thanks for that stonkingly good introduction. I want you just to follow me around, and everywhere I go, you can just introduce me, Jason. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be good. And yeah, I'd love to. When can I start? No. Yeah, so basically I was a introduction, but is there anything else like about your kind of background you want people to know? Just kind of fill in the blanks and just tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I suppose I've been involved in personal development work for a number of years, but the big story in my life when I was younger, where it all started for me was the death of my father. So when I was very little, and this is, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story, but this is how I got into personal development. When I was 3 years old, my father took his own life. He was just 28 years old. And he was a really successful guy. Like, he was on TV every week. He was a professional singer. But his father died. He got depressed, and in the end, it got hold of him, that mental illness, and he took his own life. And that was like the ground zero of my life. Brought up as in a single parent family. It was just me, my brother, and my mum. And there was a lot of fear in my childhood. There was a lot of my mum was always fearful of something like that traumatic event happening again. So I lived quite an insular life. So as I grew up, I had to kind of learn tools and techniques to really get my confidence, to build my courage to step out into the world. And I was lucky enough to get into sport, where I first discovered coaching. And then later on in my life, I found I actually got a coach allocated to me, and he was doing all these kind of crazy, he was asking me these crazy questions, and I was in a sort of high-powered job at the time. So I got a coach allocated to me, and I thought, do you know what? This guy's brilliant. Like, he's really changed. He was changing my mindset, the way I thought. He helped me understand, my anxiety that I'd had since I was a kid. And I asked him, well, what is this great, like, you keep asking me these bizarre questions, like, what is this thing that you're doing? And he said, well, it's something called NLP. It's something called Neuro Linguistic Programming. And I said, wow, well, teach me more. And he basically gave me, over those, I think I had about 10 or 20 sessions with him. So it's quite a long period of time, over 3 to 6 months. And I was in my early 20s at the time, and I was still suffering from kind of a lot of anxiety. I wasn't really someone who was depressed a lot, but I was always someone who was carrying around a lot of worry and a lot of fear. So I would do things, but I'd always be really nervous about social, things, coming on a podcast like this, doing a presentation. They would always, like, my body would just like literally close up. So he helped me with all of that stuff. And then he showed me the training that he'd done, and I went and did exactly the same training. So he did NLP with a really good company that had, I got to train with Richard Bandler and John Grinder, who invented NLP. I got to train with Robert Dilts. I got to train with Joseph O'Connor. I got to train with, eventually I went on and did some training with Tony Robbins. I did Paul McKenna. So I did a whole bunch of training around that time in my late 20s and early 30s that really changed the direction of my life. And, I was very grateful for that training, because that was what put me on the path that I'm on now in terms of coaching, training, and mentoring. And then eventually because of my father's death and because of the impact that it had on me as a boy, I thought, you know what, I need to focus on men. That's where I need to focus my attention. So many, of the statistics now in terms of suicide rates, mental health issues going through the roof. It's a difficult time for men to live at the moment. And so different changes in identity, different changes in terms of the dynamics between feminine and masculine, all sorts of stuff going on. And I really wanted to specialize in that. So I then trained to be a men's coach and did some very specific training on that, looking at men's issues. And now I focus exclusively in terms of my one-to-one coaching just on men. And that's been so fulfilling, to do. And but I also do NLP training and stuff as well, where you have mixed groups. And I love working with women as well. It's just at the moment, at this time of my life, just focusing in on those men's issues. So that's a bit about me and what I do and why I do it, which I think is always the important question, isn't it? It's like we all come from a place of, like, if you get into the healing or you get into some kind of self-development work, or you're a coach or a trainer or a consultant, there's always a story behind it about, even if you're unconscious of that story, there's always that thing. Your own kind of personal story is really what gets you into it. And then, you find that shadow aspect, that traumatic event that happened in my life, now it's like the gold, right? Now it's like I can transmute that. I can shift that pain into something which I'm delivering out there and helping other people and serving. So, that's how I see things. That's what I want to do.
Funny you say that, because there's a Japanese art form called Kitsugi, and it's where they take broken china and they fill it with gold and mend it with gold. And it's a beautiful way of saying our scars are what make us unique and beautiful.
Wow. I love that, Jason. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's beautiful, brother.
It's Kintsugi. Go and look it up. It's like they mend like broken bits of pottery and vases and all sorts of stuff with actual gold. And it's to remind us that, everyone's cracks are different, everyone's, different experience has shaped them into kind of being this, beautiful representation of, So it's like highlighting that our scars make us beautiful. It's what makes us unique. It's what allows us to help people the most. And and because we've been to those depths, we can then take our clients from that depth and bring them back up, if you know what I mean.
I do, yeah, and it's something I firmly believe in. You can only, I know there's a quote out there that you've probably heard, which is, you can only go as deep with a client as you've gone yourself, right? So it's like you've got to do the work for yourself. You've got to walk the walk, and that's what we're trying to do every day. But without that modeling, without that kind of, I'm doing the work on myself, you find that you're sharing from a place which is very theoretical, and people don't engage too much with that. So if you're a coach or a trainer or someone who's looking to inspire people, it's always worth looking at, what's my own story? How did I do the alchemy myself? That magic where we take the dirt and we transform it into gold. That is the internal transmutation, if you like that transformation that happens within, and then you can share it, right? It's like but all of that pain that you went through in your childhood, or maybe you're going through some pain and difficulty now, that's all there to help you grow and to get you to a point where you can begin to help others and step into that power for yourself. So that's what it's all about. I love that metaphor. I'm definitely going to look that one up. God, the Japanese, they come out with some good stuff, don't they? I've got a book here on have you heard about the Ikigai? Have you heard that one as well? That's a great process. Let's just talk about the Japanese. That'll be fine.
Is it like the looping triangles, basically?
Yeah, exactly. How to find your purpose.
Yeah.
The Ikigai. Yeah, that was one of the exercises I did very early on. Where it all cross, those are kind of vectors that all cross, and then you find right in the middle of that center. That's what you should be doing. So it's a great process to have a look.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. And going back, obviously, you've kind of, to come from like a place of anxiety, negative stuff happening to you, that takes a lot of courage to kind of pick yourself up and become the person that you've been. So talk us through that journey a bit more, like in finding courage enough to kind of go and help people in the world.
Well, I like the fact that you call it courage, because I think that's what it is. And there's two, like some people confuse confidence with courage. And I think courage is really the thing I'm interested in, less than confidence, because confidence comes after the fact. You know, confidence is competence. You know, it's like you do something enough, you're going to get confident at it, right? But that's not where your growth edge is. It's like if you're wanting to learn a new skill, you have to be right on that growth edge. That's where the fear is, and that requires courage. Because courage is something that when you're stepping into the unknown, courage is something where you're really looking to be right on the edge, the kind of cutting edge of where you are. And that's where that growth happens, right on the edge, not too far over it and not too far within your comfort zone, but just on the edge of it. That's where you want to be. So you don't want to push too hard, because then it feels impossible and just fear and anxiety takes over. But if you're too comfortable, then you don't grow. So we want to be right on that edge. And I've always found when I was trying to learn a new skill. So, I mean, I'll tell you, the first time I gave a presentation, I was absolutely terrible, like absolutely diabolical. I was, I think I was aged about 22 or something. And I had my first job, and I was asked by the manager to give a presentation to this board of directors. So I was absolutely bricking it, right? Because I was like fresh out of school. I needed to give the presentation. And have you ever heard the expression? Have you ever heard the expression saddlebagged? Right, it's when you sweat so much that your shirt is like under the armpits. Have you ever had that experience? I'm sorry if you're a woman and listening, but this happens to guys, right? It may happen to you too, but we don't talk about it. But it's like you get so sweaty that you literally have saddlebags. So as I was sat there waiting to do this presentation, and of course in the waiting to do it, that's even worse, right? Because you just built that anxiety, it's building. And I stood up to do the presentation, and literally I was covered in sweat before I even started. And then I started to speak, and it was like my throat literally wouldn't talk. I was that panicked. So it was like a really embodied fear. I mean, they say like giving presentations is worse than, you know, people fear that more than dying, right? Well, that was me. That was me. So 22 years old, I did it. I had to be rescued. My managing director realized I was not even going to get through the first 5 minutes of this. And he stood up and sat me down, and I sat there, and I was so angry with myself that I was so fearful and so anxious about the presentation. So I was doing the whole beating myself up about it as well. And so what I decided to, I sat on the train going home, and it was raining, you know, pouring down with rain, and I was like miserable and sat on the train on my own, and I was thinking, how am I going to fix this? But on that train journey, I made a decision, right? And that's what started this whole journey for me. And that decision was that I never wanted to be in that situation again. Like I never wanted to be bad at presenting ever again. And because that decision was made from such a powerful place, it was something which I'd committed to 100% right there, sat on the train going home. Now it was on a half an hour train journey. By the time I got back, I looked up the course that I could do, and I decided to do an acting course. This is you know, how committed I was to it. I decided to do something called the Alexander technique, which is a breath technique that actors do. And that was really the first bit of probably personal development training that I did. And it was a 2-day course where they had us do these crazy things with sort of lying down and breathing, and then you have to stand up. You work on your breath, your posture. It was less about the content of presentation and more about how you feel it in your body, because that was where I was really suffering. It was like we carry these pockets of like trauma around in us, right? So that's what I worked on. And from that time on, I decided I wanted to become a great speaker. And that's what I decided to do. And I just did training after training after training to get me to the point where I was until, you know, a couple of years ago, I did a presentation in front of the Prime Minister. So I was asked to go and do a presentation for them, and I did that. I've done presentations, I've been on national television in front of audiences of 11 million people on BBC Breakfast. So, you know, I kind of walk the walk in terms of going from that, like age 20, 23 years old, not able to even breathe, standing up in front of, you know, business executives, to being able to present in front of very large crowds. And do I still feel nervous? Do I still brick it? Yes, I do. I absolutely do. And I don't think that's ever going to change. It's like, but what I've learned to do is manage my state, right? Is get into a good physiology, is understand my breath is my power, is to ground myself, and then to step into the presentation and be able to deliver what I need to do. So in terms of your question, how do you get to this point where you're like, you know, you're moving from fear to courage and then on to confidence and competence? Then that transition is firstly about just making a decision. It's like making a decision that you want it. Because when you then bring the attitude of, you know, whatever's going to happen, I'm going to get through this, I'm going to get over it, I'm going to get under it, I'm going to get around it, I'm going to find a way to become this person, whether it's become a coach, become an entrepreneur, become a six-figure earner, become a great presenter, whatever it is, it all starts with that decision. If you make that decision from an embodied place, like a place which is from a place of fear, yes, you're moving away from fear, but also towards a vision of how you want yourself to be. When you have those two powerful forces working for you, then you can absolutely do it. If I can present from where I started, and I'm speaking to 11 million people on BBC Breakfast, then, you know, we can all do it, guys. I mean, it's about making a decision and then putting that out there as something that you really want to aspire to. And you'll find the universe begins to work for you, right? You guys will have found this as well. Like, it begins to put things in your path, opportunities come up, and you begin to make changes in your life. And that's really what it's about.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you know, we started with the first guest, and you know, now we're talking to guests like you, Carl. Like, it's so great, like to have that journey. And but that's pretty much what we are doing. We're kind of taking these stuck, you know, self-doubting like men who, you know, are really kind of stuck in how they think, and we're getting them to the point where they're going to start to take, you know, start to step out of their comfort zone just ever so slightly, and then more and more and more, and then that gradually gets to confidence, which is what they come to us for. We, you know, we're advertising as courage and confidence coaches, but you know, it's kind of like they want the confidence, they want the end result, so they're coming to us for confidence. But there's a journey, isn't there, like you just said, to kind of, you know, get that confidence and competence.
Yeah, there absolutely is a journey. Yeah. And that the journey is the thing, right? Because you never really get it. Like if I was, I mean, I think, you know, coming on this podcast today, you didn't, it was like, can you come on the podcast? I was like, well, how long do I have? Well, you don't have any time, Karl. We want you just to come on the podcast. And I'm like, initially that anxiety is like, holy shit. Like, you know what, I don't know whether I can swear on your podcast, but I am anyway. But it's like, okay, so I got like Jason wants to do this podcast. I don't know anything about it. I don't know what it's about, but I can jump on now simply because, you know, I've done it so many times now that you build that competence up. But when you build the confidence in yourself that, you know, you can come on and just talk. But when you start out, you know, it is about taking those small steps and again working at your edge. Would I take that 23-year-old Karl and put him in front of 11 million people on BBC Breakfast? Hell no, I would not do that to him. It's like you have to take those steps, right? It's a progression. So anybody tells you it's like you can do it overnight, you can't, you know, you can change your state quickly, like in a flash. You can get into a confident state, but will you have the competence to do it, or will you be just pushed, you know, over a bridge? You know, it's like, well, fly, and it's like, well, I can't fly. So it's like you've got to build up that level of capability and skill as well over time. So it's like, yeah, confidence is great, and build the competence with it, and have the courage to make the decision in the first place and go for it. So yeah, I mean, and wherever you are in your journey, at whatever age you are, or whatever, you know, particular life situation you're in, you can always find ways to challenge yourself every day, just on the edge, you know, just on the edge of that comfort zone to really, you know, you guys are modeling it right now by starting this podcast and just getting people on and like just going for it. And, you know, your listener base, your fan base will grow over time and you'll get better at it. And you'll look back at these podcasts as I look back at some of my early podcasts and think, Jesus, what the hell was I thinking? But, you know, later on, like years down the line, you'll be like, wow, that was part of the journey, right? That was part of my development. And I look back and I love myself for doing that because that was what I had to do at the time to get where I am. So it's all about, you know, taking it, chunking it down, and then really, you know, loving yourself through the times when you're not so great. You know, maybe you fail, maybe you get saddlebags like I did, and you sweat, and you know, you get nervous, but you keep going, and in the end, you know, you'll be triumphant because you know you've got that attitude, and that attitude is, I'm going to get through it, I'm going to get over it, I'm going to get around it, whatever I need to do to make this happen for myself. And you know, with that self-belief, that'll take you a long, long way.
Yeah, because I've had like the early opinions of my earlier podcasts. Oh, you need to be doing this more, you need to be doing that. Like everyone to give their opinion, and it's kind of like, well, actually, it's just a process. You know, I'm doing these podcasts to get better at speaking and to put myself out there. Like, you know, it's not going to happen overnight, like you say. And yeah.
Yeah, and what I love about you, Jason, and you, Adam, is that authenticity about you coming on and just doing it as you are, as you be. You know, it's like you get so many people that try and do it, and you can tell that because it's not real. You know, the ones that wear the mask and they're not really, they're not being their authentic self. They're kind of hiding behind, or they're trying to model somebody that they've seen do it, or they're trying to be somebody else. You know, we can't all be Tony Robbins, right? We don't all have big, like 6'6" and big flipping flashy teeth and a big American accent. Like, we can't all be Tony Robbins. Certainly not to start with. You can model Tony Robbins. You can aspire to be like that on stage and to move people like that. But that's taken years and years and years of like him crafting his art, right? So it's like, no, you got to start, like, get out there. Don't pretend to be something you're not. Just get out there, start talking like you're doing, start making the stuff, and you know, be creative and learn and fuck it up and then do it again. And it's like you learn through that process, and that's how we're built as human beings, right? That's what we've done for millennia. So we adapt, we overcome, we get better.
I love it. So, Adam, you got a question?
Yeah, so I can resonate with you, Karl, with the presentation. I think when I was about 22, I did a first presentation and I was nervous as fuck. I mean, I was sweating and that. I couldn't even speak. And then a few years later, I said I weren't going to do another presentation again.
Yeah.
And then about the age of 25, I did another presentation. And then that I was nervous at first, but as I started to speak, I could see the people engaging. So that built my confidence up more to speak more. And since then, I do get nervous at the start, but then when I start talking, the nerves just go.
Nice.
I don't really prepare. I just go with the flow.
Yeah.
And often it's that anticipation, isn't it? Like, I agree with you. It's like, it's the anticipation of, because what a lot of people do is worry about stuff that they never actually get to do because they worry about it so much. It's like you're carrying, and this is about like being able to focus your thoughts in certain directions. But if you're always worried about something which has either happened in the past or is going to happen in the future, then you stay in that state a lot of the time. And a lot of people's lives are kind of made up of the cumulative states of like worrying about the past or worrying about the future, which is like counterproductive to them, because that is the quality of your life. The quality of the life that you have is the quality of the moment that you're in. So this is something that I really realized through my training, is that moment to moment to moment, we're always trying to build the quality of life that we have right now, which means that, you know, learning how to manage your state through stuff like NLP, or understanding the nature of thought through something like 3 principles training or spirituality or meditation. You know, that stuff can really help you understand that you're okay right now. You're okay. Like, there is no pressure on you to either do this thing in the future. You're not living through your past anymore. You're okay. And it's like, understanding that was really the key to unlocking kind of my anxiety. And then, like you say, Adam, if we're constantly worried, like, the anticipation is actually worse than doing it. Because once you're in flow, once you've engaged with that audience, like you say, Adam, and I've got a question for you actually on that. Like, once you're engaged in that process, it's like magic, right? You realize that the moment is the moment. It's like, and you feel into what's needed in that moment. And that's what makes magic presenting. It's like you can really over prepare, But if you're doing that engagement with an audience and you're kind of in the moment and bringing the stuff up as it comes up to you, like you're living in the moment, that's what makes magic, right, for people. Who wants to sit through 50 flipping PowerPoint slides that you prepared like 10 weeks ago that is not relevant to what's happening right now? People want right now, like they want the magic now. So it sounds like that's what you've nailed, Adam. But I had a question for you actually, which was about engagement. So you said, I knew I was engaging the audience, right? Whenever I hear that, I think there's some like real wisdom and insight in that. And so my question for you is, how did you know that you were engaging the audience? Like, what did you see? What did you hear? What did you feel? Like, how did you know you were engaging the audience?
Because the first part of the presentation, I was looking down because I prepared a few notes, and I was looking down, and obviously when you speak looking down, that you can't really project your voice. So as I was looking up and saw the audience engaging with the eyes, and then they started smiling, and when there was funny parts, it was laughing, and as I could see that, and I could feel the energy, the energy off the 20, 30 people there, the energy I was feeling, it was like your heart bumping, the blood race. It's like a proper adrenaline rush. And the more I felt it, the more I was like, you know what, we're going to fucking smash this. We're going to keep talking and talking and talking. And the more energy I got, the more I started speaking, the more engagement. I was even asking them questions.
Nice.
I was even taking questions off them. So the more energy I got, the more I wanted to stay up there. But we only had like 15 minutes. I was like, that's not long enough. Give me more. Give me more.
Great. So you've gone from like really nervous and worried about giving presentations to like, and notice that language that you're using there's like, it's about connection, right? It's about connecting to yourself, connecting to the moment, connecting to the audience. It's like, that's the magic. And then the engagement with the smiles and the eye contact. And then you realize, oh man, I've got this. I could talk for another hour. I know I've got 15 minutes, but give me the hour. It's like, you can take it and right and run with it, because that's where the magic is. The magic is always right there in the moment. So you can prep these things, but the magic of a sports contest would be very boring if we as coaches, like we just planned out what the game was going to look like, and then we got to the pitch and like the game went that way. All right, and everyone goes home and goes, oh, it went exactly as we thought. No, the magic of sport is in the fact that it's totally unpredictable. Like anything could happen. The goal could come from anywhere. You have injuries. You have acts of God. You have pigeons on the field. You have crowd rushes. You have like the magic's in the conflict and the drama, right, of that moment coming together. So that's what people live for. Yeah, it's like, so engaging in that moment when you're doing presentations, and also understanding that the drama in your entrepreneurial journey or the drama in your coaching journey, all of that stuff's what life's made of, right? So yeah, plan it, prep, absolutely, I believe in that. And then flow, like just go with where the energy is and really let yourself be ignited by what's happening in the moment. And then you're creating magic, Adam. So beautiful job, buddy. Good job.
Yeah, because you can only ever plan one side of it anyway, can't you? It's like, whether it's like delivering a presentation, technical things could go wrong, like, or it's with an audience, you could get not what you expect from the audience, or the other sports team who come to play you in the tournament, like, could play totally different to how you've watched them on videos for weeks and how you've planned, and they're doing this here, there, that, there, and you've tactically set up your team, but then they come and change your style and you're like, what the hell? Like,
yeah, exactly.
So
it's always about feeling into what the moment requires. I love that phrase. It's like feeling into what the moment needs, and that's actually what great coaches do as well. So it's like they feel into the question that's wanting to be asked, but that nobody's asking, right? That the client's not asked themselves before, that the man sat in front of you's not asked themselves before. They're feeling into the question that the moment is asking for, not the 20 questions that they had preset or the set of tools and techniques that they wanted to use, but the question that's wanting to be asked, right? So it's always about trying to tune in and really use your senses to feel into what's coming next, and to feel into what magic wants to unfold right now.
And that heavily speaks to me because I'm highly kinesthetic, so like as a learner. So yeah, that sort of language, feeling into things, I'm all about that. Like that's what that is for me. Yeah. So if people want to work with you, like join whatever groups you've got going on, like how can people get in touch with you if they want to work with you?
You can go to my website, which is Karl with a K, Walkinshaw, WALKINSHAW.com. Go to karlwalkinshaw.com. You can find out more about my men's coaching, men's mentoring, training. And you can also find me on Facebook. Check me out on Facebook. We've just started a new NLP group we're calling NLPU. And if you want some good quality, ethical, free training basically in neuro linguistic programming and how that's impacted my life and the life of my partner, then you can definitely come along and learn that. We'd love to have you in the group. So number of different, you can also find me on Instagram. You can also find me on Twitter. So just type my name into Google and all sorts of fun stuff will come up. Just don't look at the old stuff when I, was a bit overweight and had, my hair was a bit wonky. But yeah.
Oh, a legend, right? Yeah, so please do reach out to Karl. Like, definitely recommend NLPU. Like, we've been involved with NLP as well, so we absolutely love NLP. So any chance to get some free training from quality coaches is always welcome. Like, yeah, and definitely it's an eye-opening experience learning NLP. Like, it really does change your life. I don't remember what it was like to think and feel before learning NLP. Like, that part of my memory is pretty much gone now, in terms of how I used to think and feel.
It was hypnotized out of you, Jason, by the sounds of it. Somebody got hold of you and just deleted all the old programming, and you're just completely updated now. Just, it's all just happening. So that's, NLP is a tremendously powerful tool. If you haven't come across it before, then check out the NLPU group we're putting. We just had a really great discussion about, representational systems. We're talking about the kinesthetic and the auditory and the visual rep systems and the gustatory and like your olfactory sense, your sense of smell, all that kind of stuff, how we understand the world and our senses, and then making sense of that internally and how you can shift and change that to manage your own state and to really be in an optimal state at different times. You don't want to be running around like Tony Robbins all the time, right? Sometimes you want to be in a relaxed state. Sometimes you want to be in a romantic state. Sometimes you want to be in a really, high energy state when you're doing presentations maybe. So it's about appropriately kind of understanding your physiology and your neurology and how you can manage your own state of being and well-being so that you can maximize your life. It's what really NLP is all about. And quick change, being able to make changes to your life that are rapid and fast and long-standing as well. So it's a really powerful set of tools and technologies underpinned by a really cool attitude about life, right? So fully recommended to you.
And yeah, so anything else, Adam, like that we missed?
Yeah, there is a question. When you have the down days, like everyone does, how do you change the mindset?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the first thing I do, and I know you said mindset, but I think about what you're doing with your body. So that's the first thing I have guys do is really, so if you start a kind of coaching session with me, the first thing we'll do is some breath work, because your breath and how deeply you're breathing and whether you can really feel your body in the chair, and how grounded you feel in yourself really begins to change your state. So breath work can change your state. You can just go out for a walk, get out in the sun, get out. I know there's not much sun around right at the moment, but you can get out in the rain then, you know, feel that rain on your face, get some blood pumping in your body. That will begin to change your state. You know, people take out, if you're in a sad physiology, I mean, everyone knows what that kind of looks like. You know, you kind of, your head's down and you're looking down and things are really kind of miserable. If you get your head back and you get your eyes up and you begin to move, you know, your body will begin to shift and that will begin to shift your mental state. So I would say start with some body work first, then you can start working on the mind and you can start working on your mindset. But your body and mind, as we were discussing just before we came on air, actually, which is like your body and mind are really linked. Like we think everything goes on up here and we can think our way out of problems. Actually, we know from modern research, like I was saying to Jason before, that like our somatic system, our gut thinks for itself. There's a whole bunch of neurons in there. Our heart, you know, literally thinks for itself in this, and our neurology does as well. So we are this kind of body mind linked system, and you can't kind of escape it. You can meditate and you can dissociate from it, but we are a linked embodied system. So think about it systemically. If you're drinking a lot, or you're taking drugs a lot, or you're like you know, that will affect your mental state. Like we know that, right? And that's like it's kind of proof that the body mind is linked in that way. So, you know, the things to look at when I'm looking with men, and if they come to me and they say, well, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm down, like the first questions I'm asking are, you know, it's like, what do you do? Do you exercise? Do you move? I mean, it doesn't mean, do you walk? You know, how is your life structured? What structure do you have around your life that's enabling you to feel good? Okay, so feeling good is really a matter of, it's not just a matter of feeling good in your mind, but you want to feel good in your body. So if you don't feel good in your body, you're not going to feel good in your mind. And that's where we start. And from there, we begin to build, you know, the real structures in their life that are going to serve them from the moment they get up. What are they doing? And that's different for every man. But that's where you want to start. You want to start with your physiology and what you're doing with your physiology. And then you can begin to layer in all sorts of great techniques like visualization techniques, relaxation techniques. We can cure phobias. We can cure, you know, we can look at, you know, what you're feeling anxious about, particular traumatic events in your past. We can do timeline therapy. There's a whole bunch of there's a toolkit of stuff that you can use with clients to help shift their mental state. But all the time, I'm always thinking about their physiology as well, you know, moving them through different physiological states to get them to a place that they really want to be. So I'd start with your body and the simple stuff, and then begin to look at what you can do up top, so to speak.
Even if it's like jumping on the floor and doing a few sit-ups, or like, you know, a few star jumps, you're going to feel totally different than that slumped kind of, you know, down than you were just experiencing a couple of seconds ago. Like 5-star jumps, you'll have a totally different mindset, you know, or kind of emotions running through your body, like chemical changes in the body, like less cortisol, more testosterone, and, you know, more get up and go sort of adrenaline, like all of those things that get you going. And yeah, you can have more of that around your body.
And good sleep, get some sleep, you know, that makes a massive difference, right? There's some stuff we can't think our way out of. So if we're not paying attention to this amazing sophisticated organ that we have, then there's reasons why you're going to feel depressed. You know, there's reasons why you're going to feel down, because it's like that is your tool, that is your instrument. So it's like if you don't look after your car, it's going to kind of fall apart on you. It's going to break down. So, you know, that's where I'd start. Great question, Adam. Could talk about that for days, couldn't we?
Good. Oh, so yeah, basically that's kind of all we've got time for, but we absolutely loved having you on. So thank you for coming on at short notice as well. Like, we really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for a great episode of the Roar-Makerz podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really enjoyed it. I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, so we always finish it in a set way. So let's draw on that courage.
Build up that confidence.
And let's get back our roars. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.
See ya.
Thank you.